Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Generalist, where security practitioners come to look beyond niches, silos, egos, and hopefully build their competence and credibility. My name is Ilya Umanskiy. So this is episode 9. Wow, time flies. So today we're going to talk about a model for the future of asset protection. And as you can see on your screen, I hope, I'll be running a slide deck, so something a little bit different from the way I've been presenting these episodes, because I really want you to kind of go on a journey with me for where we are today as a profession, as many of us call it, as a trade, as I unfortunately view it, and to take a look at some of the current state of affairs, but also to hopefully look together at some of the, let's call it aspirations, if you will, that we want to consider to improve our industry and to help young and aspiring practitioners grow their brands, accelerate their careers, and really serve the needs of those whom they advise much better than we do today. So without further ado, we have an issue of failure. Failure, not universal, not certainly, let's say, failure only without any success. We do have success in our industry, and accidents and incidents do get prevented. But I think that we have arrived at this juncture where we no longer can afford to operate in silos, like we advise multiple clients of ours. And yet here we are, operating in at least 2 camps. And you can see that we have camp 1, which is your cyber domain, and we have camp 2, which is physical domain. And you can see that we sort of separated the assets that each domain has or should be responsible for. And unfortunately, and you can test it within your organizations, does everyone really, even practitioners in our industry, do we really clearly understand what it is that we're protecting? Now, some people can say, we're protecting humans. Okay, is it the only asset? We are protecting buildings. Okay, so is this possibly a little bit too macro of an asset? Or are there some assets within the building that we're protecting? We're protecting information. Fine. In what domain? Because information exists, as I'm sure you understand, in at least 3 domains that I can think of, right? So one is mental, which is in our heads. The next one is digital, which is ones and zeros. And third one is physical, which is recorded in paper form. So we have this inconsistency of definitions of assets across the 2 domains, right? We have the inconsistency of classification of those assets by criticality, application of impact scenarios or loss scenarios, and then, of course, as a final step in advising our clients, what is the impact to the business objectives or the organization's objectives, right? So right now, some organizations have it a little bit better. Some organizations have it much worse, in the sense that very few people understand, both clients and those in our industry, what is an asset, and how to create an asset management, asset inventory system that properly defines those assets, determines what assets are mission critical, and looks for ways to apply protection measures. So in order to eliminate losses and in order to help the organization to meet its objectives. We do have a plethora of recurring incidents, even though we're all saying how we're embracing technology and we're looking and we're trying to support young and aspiring practitioners. We can't shake off this problem with recurring incidents, and the incidents that appear to be caused by trivial things. Okay, I mentioned in my previous episode on obsession with cybersecurity the word misconfigured. Okay, so yet again, we're hearing in the last few days that major data sets were lost and the systems compromised because of misconfigured systems. We are developing niches of specialists, okay, both on the data protection side, cyber side, right? Somebody is a penetration tester. Somebody, let's say, is a SOC operator. Somebody is doing something with technology implementation, right? Somebody could be, let's say, on the product side, right? But we're kind of dissolving this ability to look strategically at organizations and their objectives and the risks to then choose the most optimal protection measures. And so I feel that that is one of the key problems. We also have fragmented solutions. So that goes hand in hand with what I just said, but how many times have you heard that you have to have at least maybe 6 or 7 or maybe 10 different software products, different platforms, be it in the cloud or on premises, to be able to apply sufficient controls and sufficient monitoring for your systems? Why? Why is it that we have to section portions of our attention and our capability to curate and constantly update and constantly monitor disparate systems that feed a signal? That also is, I feel, a huge detriment for our decision making. And of course, we are throwing at each other and at our clients exclusive terminology, which I've talked about multiple times. But it's just, let's just say it's not just my point. You could listen to people like Chris Roberts and many others that talk about how we have polluted our professional, let's call it professional language, right? With so many abbreviations, so many terms, that when we present our findings, our risk analysis to stakeholders who are basically risk decision makers and organizational decision makers responsible for organizations' objectives, very often we are not able to connect with them because of this exclusive terminology. They get lost in all abbreviations. We are not able to speak in simple terms. And as I've been saying before, we have limited academic focus. We are really struggling to build academic foundations that are unified, uniform enough so that a young individual who is aspiring to enter our profession is able to clearly understand what is the barrier to entry, what kind of knowledge base, foundational knowledge they need to acquire, how to progress from being a complete novice to levels, let's say, where their knowledge could begin to be applied, what kind of academic institutions provide certain levels of education, and then how to scale up their knowledge, their ability, and then convert that into into becoming a proper protector, proper advisor to organizations. So unfortunately, we've been seeing a lot of industry associations occupying that space with their certifications. But as I've argued multiple times, certification is a one-time application or one-time measurement of somebody's focused learning, focused period of study. And once that certification is applied, the recertification process is unfortunately quite abysmal, and it doesn't really test the person's continued ability to first have remembered the concepts they've acquired, and also the quality of their ability to apply those concepts. So does the organization ultimately benefit from this person having been certified? I'm not sure about that. So we also see that, unfortunately, we're not applying a lot of root cause analysis to our ability to understand really what is at the root of the security or asset protection problem. In most cases, it is not necessarily technology, although sometimes we do buy technologies that are just poorly designed, don't work consistently, misconfigured, if you will. But at the end of the day, if you look at all of those things in combination, it's all about humans. We're not taking a more concerted effort to understand who are the decision makers along this process of selection of protection measures, application of protection measures, and then monitoring of how well those protection measures actually support our need to reduce risks and inform decision makers. So I think you'll find that if you were to apply root cause analysis, most of the time, unless the product is just faulty from the factory and nobody has checked it, but even then, somebody needs to do the verification of the quality of that product. So it all goes back to us humans. We also, unfortunately, and it goes back to lack of academic base, we also are dealing with this problem of poor talent management. We're all actively pursuing this issue of lack of talent. But we're not asking questions about where does this talent come from today? What kind of pathway are we providing to this talent so that they can easily understand how to move on in our industry? I recently witnessed how one of the industry associations was asked what are the core competencies for their membership. And there was clear expectation that any association can offer that set of, let's say, a bullet list, right? They couldn't come up with anything. They basically said, well, we kind of don't have core competencies for our members. And I found that to be really a stark reminder that we must do better for to build this proper path for young talent to enter our industry. They need to understand far more clearly how we want them to educate themselves, what kind of resources are available, what are the academic foundations, what kind of knowledge they need to have in order to then deliver results to organizations that they join. At the end of the day, we also are not delivering the right results to stakeholders. I think there are multiple reasons why that's the issue. I think that they are observing the multitude of incidents that are recurring and in a bit of a panic trying to ascertain why the same thing keeps on happening. Or sometimes they're looking at one incident and they're saying, well, wait a second, we promised that there was some assurance that we would be well protected against these things. Of course, you can't have 100% protection. Everybody knows that. But the stakeholders, I think there's, they have this disconnect in their level of understanding of what they're expecting to be protected relatively well, and what is the capability of protectors. And I don't know if there's necessarily a good synergy. And on top of that, as I said, we're feeding exclusive terminology, we're not developing talent properly. So if I were a stakeholder, let's say I'm a board member, I would be really slightly lost in trying to ascertain, like, well, so who's capable? Who can deliver the right results for me, right? Who can help us stay away from or avoid risks, avoid trouble, and help us meet our objectives. So I would struggle probably in trying to get that across. So here we are. We have the two camps that really, if you carefully observe how each operates and what associations do and what events take place, they sort of exist in parallel. Yes, there is a bit of overlap with, where some cyber people are speaking to people on the physical security side, and sometimes people from the physical security side speak to people in cyber. But at the end of the day, there is lack of understanding in terms of terminology, in terms of protection measures. There's no standardization across the board. There is lack of alignment between functional responsibilities or functional teams. So physical security doesn't always coordinate with cybersecurity, if those functions even exist in an organization. Then you have the problems with collaboration. And then you have the issue of unified education. Go and find a program for me that teaches data protection, all the while teaching what's called physical security. If you can find one, would you please send me a link? So there's a lot of talk in our industry about moving forward. There's a lot of talk in our industry about improvement for talent, for our clients, and to build up our professionalism, right? But I think that talk does not really result in any improvement whatsoever. We are still seeing a huge number of incidents, and they're only escalating. We're still seeing talent that is struggling to enter either side, either camp in our industry. And also without proper understanding that there really is no place for camps. You really need to have a unified asset protection industry. And so I would like to share with you what I think might be a good model. As I mentioned to you, assets play the foundational role in protection. Because if you don't know what you're protecting, and I'm repeating probably the same phrase from many, many years ago, uttered by many, many people, if you don't know what you're protecting, you're not able to apply sufficient protection. So in my humble opinion, I think assets need to take the central role, and their definition, their identification and prioritization needs to take a central role in how we practice our skills, how we apply our skills, and how we advise stakeholders. Assets live across multiple domains, and you can see here some examples. Now, obviously, this is not an exhaustive list, but money, information, people, reputation, and environments, right? You could add, subtract, depending on the type of organization. But really, what I'm trying to demonstrate to you is that you got to look across the entire domain. No, sorry, not the entire domain, but the entire spectrum of an organization. So what I also believe is it's impossible if you're a specialist, right? If I, for example, know how to deploy product, or how a product works, or if I know how to execute a certain focused set of skills, like, for example, data protection, right? I still am missing this overarching generalist competence about all of the domains that I'm demonstrating here. So we are continually talking about lack of professional polish among our peers, and we're also talking about the same as applied to young talent. We're not really cultivating better knowledge of psychology and how behavioral psychology specifically helps us understand some of the behaviors, some of the non-compliance, if you will, or some of the decision making, and fix some of the biases or avoid some of the biases, and fix some of the underlying problems. We are not looking at design, which unfortunately it is so infused into everything we do. I mean, think about the layout of a building. That's design, right? Think about the product that you're using for your as a software, right? That is designed to feed you signal in a certain format, right? So if it doesn't work well, if you don't understand what's in front of you on the screen, or if that's too convoluted or it's too cluttered, that's poor design, right? We're not addressing these topics whatsoever. We're also then not addressing operational controls, technological, physical, and incident management. And I think not so much that we don't understand what goes into each one of these, but we are not looking at them as a spectrum, as part of a whole system of knowledge. We are saying, I could be good operationally, right? I understand, let's say, how GSOC works. I can create a team of people that will help run security operations, right? I could hire guard force. I could train my own staff. I could also competently write policies and procedures, but you don't know anything about tech. And vice versa. So there could be people who are technologists, but don't understand much about operations. Then physical controls live in its own domain, because physical controls, as you understand, are windows, doors, walls, landscapes around buildings. So the physical environment that exists around us, right? And so I don't believe that there is sufficient knowledge within our industry of that one domain, but also how it connects with technology and operations. And last but not least, incident management. Some of us have had experience, both direct and academic or training experience in terms of incident prevention, incident management, and incident recovery. Granted, but is it something that we are infusing as necessary knowledge in each of the practitioners that operates within our industry? Is it something that every certification that we have requires to learn, requires to demonstrate in terms of your capability and your skills? So this is what I believe a model that can help reduce failure in the way we handle protection, and also help our organizations to be more resilient. And so last but not least is the how. Okay, so my suggestion is that you at least consider, I'm not saying you must go along with what I said, but you at least consider that we have to come up with an agreement about the set of at least several domains of knowledge that have to be in each practitioner's acumen. If they don't understand how technology overlaps with operations and incident management and physical security, I mean, wouldn't we think that they'll miss certain chunks of capabilities, problems that arise in organizations simply because they don't know where to look? So I suggest that we have to come up with a number of domains for an academic base, if you will. We also need to create a unified set of core competencies. As I said to you, if associations still can't come up with core competencies of their own, and we're in 2020, at the end of 2020, and dealing with probably one of the worst crises, global crises that could beset us, at least in our current generation, I think that that probably presents a problem that we need to solve very quickly. We also need to consider shifting away from commercial certification models, because as good as they may have been years ago, to at least help someone understand, okay, so if I get this certification, it will have some weight for me to be able to excel in my industry. Well, it may have been assumed to be true many years ago, but we can see now that really at the end of the day, it may not matter who's certified and who isn't. What's important is the knowledge the person has and what experience they've had, how they're able to communicate relative to risk and protection measures, and what resources they're able to gather, generate, find, and apply in order to protect the organization from unfortunate incidents, right? I believe that we need to go back to primary education and help infuse the awareness of asset protection from the early years, right? That builds kind of the general awareness of risk, and also risk-conscious decision making. That very much ties in with critical thinking. And I think that we need to stop building this awareness of deterrence, detection, and delay, because those are useful, fundamental concepts in your personal life. I also believe that apprenticeships play a huge role in the way we can make this young talent that's coming into our industry learn the ropes, if you will, start observing and understanding how more competent practitioners apply their skills. I also think that we're really lacking partnerships with psychologists, designers, and ethicists, because a lot of decisions are made in vacuum outside of influences of these three disciplines. We should insist on interoperability of products for orchestration. So I don't want to buy 5 platforms and then individually manage each one of them. They should be creating a unified and visibility for me, without me having to think that I bought this one from manufacturer A, manufacturer B. Doesn't matter. They all should be producing a converged system of signal. We should be thinking about upstream thinking and root cause analysis. And I think that it's important to teach all practitioners, both those who have been in the industry and who are entering our industry, that problem solving and root cause analysis, right? They have this huge value in terms of prevention, right? I don't want necessarily my client to have to suffer through consequences of an incident, rather than helping my client understand that there might have been a threat and we have been able to prevent it, right? Because all stress, all negativity comes with suffering through an incident. We also need to measure as much as we can using proper statistical models, and quantification in general needs to become part of our conversations more and more as we talk to clients about risk management. And of course, maintaining a unified knowledge management system. We have not yet seen that a unified knowledge management system has existed, be it through ASIS or through CISA or through whichever other organizations, industry associations that offer bodies of knowledge. So I think the best way to do this is to set that in academic terms, if we are able to do so, and then infuse that into associations, so that could be unified and used throughout our industry. So the closing point is, we can't stay kind of still. We can't look at our industry and say, well, we have sufficient sufficient platforms for young talent to enter. We have all the knowledge that we could have possibly accumulated, and so therefore we can practice our skills competently, apply them competently, because we're really missing a lot of incidents. We're missing a lot of decisions, and unfortunately, we need to start soaring above mediocrity in our industry to demonstrate our value, so that we could start getting a seat at the board table or other decision maker tables more often and more consistently. I leave you with these thoughts. Please stay safe, and thank you very much.